Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hey there, Nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we are back with another episode of the Golden Age. This is our series of Warhammer Fantasy Battle Reports, and this is Battle Report number 133. It is a 3,000 point battle that is fought between Wood Elves as well as Lizardmen. My buddy Smell Like Febreze is bringing the Wyld Hunt of the Wood Elves, and I'll be bringing the Lizards of Was, my 3,000 point Lizardmen army. So in case if you're turning in for the very first time, welcome to my channel. We have a really awesome time playing battle reports, especially Warhammer Fantasy as well as Necromunda on this channel. And in case if you're unaware, this series is actually dedicated to our 3,000 point Lizardman army. Recently, I cobbled together a 3,000 point Lizardman army out of some secondhand Seraphon miniatures I was able to purchase from a person at my local gaming store who was falling out of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, as well as some leftover Bone Splitter miniatures that we had from when we used to do Age of Sigmar content on this channel. And I basically put it together and created a 3,000 point army, kind of like a hybrid between orcs and goblins mixed with the Lizardmen, because they're pretty much kind of the same. You could easily proxy Source Warriors with orcs as well as Kings with goblins, and that's exactly what we've done. The narrative about these guys is that the Lizards of Was are actually made up of orcs and goblins who crash landed in Lustria and adopted the Old One's teachings as well as the Lizardman way of life. And so currently right now this army is sitting at 5 wins and 0 losses, so I'm actually changing up the list quite a bit on this one. I was trying to do an experiment on this one. I wanted to see what it'd be like to run an army without using a Slann Mage Priest in it, and decided to go with that instead for this build. So if you look at the army, it's going to be just a little bit different than you guys are used to seeing, and we'll talk about exactly how it works out. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to play some background music real quick. As the music is playing, we will show you photos of both armies as well as army lists. You can also check down in the description box below to see exactly what we're bringing for this one. So that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll.
Crom, I've never prayed you before. I have no tongue for it. No one, not even you, will remember if we were good men or bad. Why we fought, or why we died. All that matters is that two stood against many. That's what's important. Balor pleases you, Crom. So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then the hell with you.
Assemble the army!
Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the scenario rules for this one. The scenario rules is Battle Line is the most typical game of Warhammer Fantasy that we play on this channel, with standard deployment as well as standard victory conditions. So now that we're done talking about the scenario, let's go ahead and talk about battle plans as well as deployments. So here's an overview shot of the entirety of the table. As you can see, we're playing on a 4x6 table. My friend Smells Like Febreze is deployed on the far side of the table, and I'm deployed on the near side of the table. And like I said before, my army list is designed a little bit differently this time around. And the reason why, because I wanted to try building an army list without using a Slann Mage Priest. I decided to substitute that character with 2 Source Old Bloods, as well as still maintain my 2 Skinks as well. To basically act as magical counters for the most part. So pretty much the idea in this battle is fighting along the flanks for the most part. And the reason why that is the case is because I am fighting against Wood Elves. My friend Smells Like Febreze does have Drycha, the special character, in her army. So because of that, she does have the Rouse Wrath ability. She has a unit of 9 Treekin as well as a Treeman. Basically is kind of off to the side, getting ready to pop up into the forest. I have forest in the bottom left-hand corner, upper hand corner, as well as in the center back end of the battlefield. My plan is to pretty much swoop around the flanks and hopefully attack her in basically a 3-prong attack. I have my Sars Cav on my Cold One Knights on the left hand side sweeping to the left, as well as my Temple Guard, as well as my my thesaurus in the center, moving up forward as well. At the same time, I also have my Totodiles, which are my 6 Kroxigor on the right hand side, swooping to the right hand side, as well as Squirtle as well as Powerade, as well as Gatorade moving on the right hand side. And basically I'm planning on just kind of swooping in that 3-prong attack. I'll keep the skinks from the House Slytherin pretty much just in the center between my 2 units of Saurus Warriors, so that way they can, dispel enemy spells and stuff like that, and also maybe shoot some poison attacks. And of course I'm bringing the Bulbasaur in the center there to kind of protect the flanks as well. And that pretty much makes my battle plan for this one. So with battle plans over, let's go and talk about deployments real quick. Alright, so starting off with the deployment for the Lizards of Waz. On the left hand side there we have a unit called the Jurassic Jousters. There's 10 Cold One Riders with Standard Bearer and Musician. They have spears and shields, and they're mounted on Cold Ones. And right next to them on the right hand side, the unit's called the Guacamole Guards. A unit of 30 Saurus Warriors with Standard Bearer as well as Musician. They're equipped with spears as well as shields. So make up the center of my army. On the left hand side, up in the front, that unit is called House Slytherin. Is a unit of 10 Skink Skirmishers with Lustrian Javelins. In that unit is also 2 of my characters. I have Snarl, who's a Skink Priest, who's a level 1 wizard. He's the Lore of Beasts wizard, who's got an Amber Spear as well as a Cube of Darkness. I also have Slag in that unit, which is another Skink Priest, who's a level 1 wizard with the Lore of Heavens. And that character is carrying the Comet of Cassandora as well as a Dispel Scroll. And right behind them is Bulbasaur, which is a Bastiladon with a Solar Engine. And next on the right hand side, that unit is called the Saurus, which is a unit of 40 Saurus Warriors with Standard Bearer as well as Musician. They have hand weapons and shields. And leading that unit as well is my leader, the general of my army. His name is Senior Chang, also known as El Tigre. He is a Saurus Old Blood. He's the general of my army. He's got a great weapon, carrying the Armor of Destiny. So he's got a heavy armor for a 1-up armor save as well as a 4-up ward save. He's also carrying a Dawnstone, so that way he can reroll failed armor saves. And he's also riding a Cold One as well. And that pretty much makes up my deployment on this one. And finally, making up my right-hand deployment. On the left-hand side, that unit is called the Totodiles. It's a unit of 6 Kroxigor with great weapons. And leading that unit is El Gordo Grande. He is a Saurus Old Blood. He's got a great weapon. He's got the Sacred Stegodon Helm of Itza, so that he's got +1 to his toughness as well as cause D3 impact hits, as well as a Talisman of Preservation to give him a 4 ward save, and he's also mounted on a Cold One. And then right next to him, of course, is the Squirtle, which is a Troglodon with a Skink Oracle with a the little wand that basically allows him to do channeling for a Dispel in Paradise. And then right next to him on the right hand side, that unit is called Cubone. Cubone is a Saurus Scar veteran. He's got a great weapon as well as a shield. He's wearing Armor Fortune for heavy armor, giving a +1 armor save as well as a 5-up ward save. And he's also riding Marowak, which is a Carnosaur with Blood Ward as well as Loping Stride. And yes, a lot of these units are named after Pokemon, and I am not ashamed to say it. So moving across the table for the Wyld Hunt, this is my friend Smells Like Febrez's army. On her left-hand flank is her general, that is Durthu, the special character, who's also the general of this army. He's level 1 wizard with the Lore of Beasts. He's also got the Savage Beast of Horros spell. Right next on the right-hand side, that is Coeddil, the Will Lord. He is a Treeman Ancient, a level 4 wizard from the Lore of Life. He has Flesh to Stone, Throne of Vines, Regrowth, Dwellers Below, as well as Strangle Roots upgrade. And right in front of him, that unit is called the Troupe of Twilight. He's a unit of 14 Glade Guard with Standard Bearer Musician. They're packing hand weapons, Asrai longbows, and arcane bodkins with the Banner of Eternal Flame. So that's right, these guys are packing flaming -4 AP longbow attacks, which is absolutely terrifying. And finally, make up the right hand side. On the left, that unit is called the Troupe of Dusk, which is a unit of 49 Dryads with a branch nymph in that unit as well. And leading that unit as well is Drycha. She's the special character. She's a level 2 wizard with the Lore of Shadow. She has the Enfeebling Foe as well as the Withering spells. And right next to them on the far right hand side, that is the Sisters of Twilight, Naetra and Arahan, the 2 special characters. They're packing Talon of Dawn and Talon of Dusk as well as light armor and Asrai spears. And they're riding Ceithin-Har, their Forest Dragon. And that pretty much makes the deployment here on the right hand side. And finally, making up the kind of off on the side for reserves right now are two units. These guys will be popping using the Rouse to Wrath ability for Drycha. In case you guys aren't aware how that rule basically works, you basically take D3 up to D3 4 spirit units, and you basically keep them in reserve. And after your turn number 1 for your remaining 7-movement phase, you roll a D6 on a 3+. These guys pop up any force of your choice. Otherwise, they just continue to slumber for the most part. So on the right-hand side, that character's name is Sternbark the Harrower. He's a tree man with Strangle Roots upgrade. And right next to him is the Troupe of Dawn, which is 9 treekin with a treekin elder. And these guys will be held off on reserve until they wake up from Rouse to Wrath. And that pretty much makes the deployment for my friend Smells Like Febreze. So with deployment over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 1, and both Smells Like Febreze and I roll off for initiative to see which of us will be going first. So that takes us directly to the top of turn number 1, and the Wood Elves manage to get the initiative on this one. And as you can see in this photo, for the most part, my friend Smells Like Febreze actually does not move anything at this point, and it's because she doesn't really need to. She is playing a 4-spirit army, and she is playing Wood Elves. Traditionally speaking, what my friend Smells Like Febreze does is that she basically sits back and makes you advance towards her. And the reason why she does this is because when she uses her Rouse Wrath ability, she uses the forest to her advantage. She has units pop up on either the flanks or, in worst case scenarios, right behind your main lines. And then what she then does counter charges with her forces and pretty much catches you in a full envelopment if she can, and tries to destroy you that way. Plus, not to mention, she's also got a pretty powerful shooting unit with her Troupe of Dusk, Troupe of Twilight, with 14 archers armed with Asrai longbows and the flaming banner of eternal flames, which gives her flaming attacks. Also gives her -4 AP as well. So it's pretty much in her benefit to pretty much just kind of hang back, and so because of that, she really doesn't do all that much movement. So there's a close-up of Durthu just kind of standing his ground next to the the woods popped up by the Wyld Roots. At the same time, you can see Sternbark the Harrower, as well as the Troupe of Dawn just kind of resting off to the side because they haven't been woken up yet using the Rouse to Wrath ability. And there's a close-up Coeddil the Will Lord, as well as the Troupe of Twilight, as well as the Troupe of Dusk with Drycha, and they're just kind of sitting there in the forest as well, which kind of makes sense because her 2 wizards do get +1 to cast with Blessings of the Ancients if they're within a forest when they cast spells, so it kind of makes sense that she keep her units right there in those forests as well. And finally, there's a close-up of Naetra and Arahan mounted on Ceithin-Har, their forest dragon, and they're just kind of chilling out in those forests on the right-hand side as well. So with the move phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. So during the magic phase, my friend Smells Like Febreze managed to cast Thorn of Vines off on Coeddil the Will Lord. She then tries to cast Dwellers Below, but luckily for me though, I was able to stop that spell using my Cube of Darkness ability. So because of that spell didn't pop up, which was really nice because that spell is absolutely terrifying. However, what was not so good though was that my friend Smells Like Febreze was able to cast the Withering off directly onto the Dosaurus. So because of that, that unit now suffers -3 to its toughness. It's also remain in play spell as well, so that part was pretty brutal too. So now my Saurus Warriors, instead of being toughness 4, are now toughness 1, which is all kinds of scary. And the reason why that is the case because we're going from the magic phase directly to the shooting phase. Because in the shooting phase, my friend Smells Like Febreze brings the pain. As you can see in this photo, she takes aim with the Troupe of Twilight. Those 14 Glade Guard armed with arcane bodkins on their Asrai bows. Now, traditionally speaking, I'm not really too worried about longbow fire because longbows have a strength of 3, traditionally speaking, and I have a toughness of 4, so usually they have to wound me on a 5 up. However, in this case, I'm only toughness 1, which means that the only way that my friend Smells Like Febreze will not wound my Saurus Warriors is she rolls a 1 on top of that. So because that, she cuts loose, and as you can see in this photo, she does manage to kill 10 of my Saurus Warriors right off the bat. I get no armor saves either because they're also packing arcane bodkins, which gives it, combined with the weapons traits from the Asrai longbows, gives me a -4 AP. So just like that, 10 of my guys just died straight off the bat. And to make matters worse, Naetra and Arahan also open up with their bows directly into my unit as well. I believe Naetra missed with her shot from the Talon of Dawn, so because of nothing much really happened there. But Dust though gets 2d6 strength 1 hits directly onto my unit, which means she has a wound on 4 ups on that case. Managed to kill kill 4 more of my Saurus Warriors as well. Now, luckily for me, though, I do pass my panic test because I do have cold-blooded, so I get to roll my 3d6, and I picked the 2 lowest results, so that part was awesome, but still, that was extremely brutal as well, having that -3 toughness. I basically popped my Cube of Darkness in order to stop that spell duelers from below, so now I'm stuck with this -3 toughness to my Saurus Warriors, which is absolutely horrific. So with that takes us directly to the bottom number 1 for the Lizardmen, and this photo is taken after the movement phase. And this is where I made a mistake, and I'll talk about that here in a second. So first off the bat, I do move as quickly as I possibly can across the battlefield because, let's face it, I'm a Lizardman army, closing the distance with my opponent, engaging within close combat. That's the best way for a Lizardman army to win. Plus, if I just hang back and try to take my time, I'm going to get shot to pieces by this Wood Elf army, and a bunch of horrible things can happen to me with those spells, so it's absolutely devastating. So that's the reason why I'm moving as quick as I can as well, to close that distance so that I don't have to worry about getting shot at by those Troupe of Twilight over there. Now, what I did, of course, on the right-hand side is I marched up both Cubone as well as Marowak up the right-hand side for the forest, directly towards Naetra and Arahan and Ceithin-Har, followed up by Totodile as well, so that's my Totodiles as well as the Squirtle, so that way they can take on that dragon and protect my right-hand flank for the most part. So I move those guys up as quick as I can, marching them forward. I do exactly the same thing with the Saurus, marching them as quick as I can directly towards the Troupe of Dusk, so that way I can take on those Dryads. And at the same time, I also march with the Guacamole Guards on the left-hand side as well, so that way I can make my way directly towards Durthu. And I do exactly the same thing with the Jurassic Joust on the left-hand side as well as the Bulbasaur as well. Now, this is where I make my mistake. I send my skink skirmishers from the House Slytherin with Slag and Snarl right in front of that boulder that's sitting in the middle of the battlefield. Now, let me tell you why this is a bad idea. The reason why that's a bad idea is because those skinks can easily be killed and destroyed, and if I'm not careful, I can cause a chain reaction of panic tests if that unit being destroyed. So units within 6 inches that take panic tests. And the reason why I bring that up is because it's going to haunt me later, and we'll talk about that when that actually happens. So here's a close-up of the Jurassic Jousters, as well as the Bulbasaur, as well as my Guacamole Guards, moving up on the left-hand side as quickly as they can, so that way I can engage with the Lizardmen. And here's a close-up of House Slytherin with Slag and Snarl on the other side of that boulder, taking points, that way they can close a distance with the Troupe of Twilight and hit them with poison javelins. And this is where I make a huge mistake in this battle report, and I'll talk about when that haunt me later, here in a second. And here's a close-up of the Saurus as well as the Totodiles with El Gordo Grande leading the point as well on the right-hand side. And finally, here is a close-up of Squirtle as well as Marowak as well as Cubone, moving up as quick as they can along the right-hand side to engage Naetra and Arahan as well as Ceithin-Har. And that pretty much makes up my move phase for this one. So the movement phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. So during the magic phase, I was able to cast the Amber Spear off with Snarl, so I was able to put 2 wounds directly onto Durthu, which is all kinds of awesome. Unfortunately though, that was the only spell I was able to get off because I don't have much of a magic presence on this one. I mainly have magical defense rather than magical offense for this current army build. So with the magic phase over with, we go directly to the shooting phase. And during the shooting phase, I opened fire with House Slytherin, firing their Lustrian javelins with poison attacks directly into the Troupe of Twilight. And I actually got pretty lucky on my shots on this one because I got -1 to hit against with being in the forest and -1 to hit against for long range. I really had my odds stacked against me on this one, but I rolled a bunch of 5s and 6s, which is absolutely out of sight. Managed to kill off, 5 of those guys right off the bat, which is all kinds of awesome. Now, unfortunately for me though, Smells Like Febreze does pass her panic check. That's another big problem that she has with this army. She doesn't have any Battle Center Bearers in this army because it's primarily Force Spirit. So she got really lucky in her leadership roles because the only thing she can use is her General's Inspiring Presence, which is Durthu. Now, he does have Leadership 10, so they're pretty much good, but even then, you could still fill a role if you're not careful. But, you know, things are working out pretty well for Smells Like Febreze at this point. At the same time, Squirtle managed to fire up some venomous spit directly into Naetra and Arahan as well as Ceithin-Har. When I rolled on the randomization to see exactly who I ended up shooting, I managed hitting Ceithin-Har, the Forest Dragon, and the Forest Dragon suffers 2 wounds, which is really, really awesome. So with the shooting phase over with, we skip the close combat phase and we go directly to the top of the turn for the Wood Elves. So that takes directly to the top of turn number 2 for the Wood Elves, and as you can see, this photo is taken after the movement phase. And for the most part, once again, my friend Smells Like Febreze, she pretty much keeps her forces pretty much centered her aside of the deployment zone. The only real dramatic movement that ended up happening is that she did move Naetra and Arahan as well as Ceithin-Har right behind the Troupe of Dusk over there, so you can see that the Sisters of Twilight flew over there, and everything else pretty much stands its ground. Now she does of course trigger her Rouse to Wrath ability on this one, so the Troupe of Dawn, that huge unit of 9 tree, can pop up right next to Durthu there on the left hand side to give him some added support. At the same time, Sternbark the Harrower, the Treeman, also pops in the forest on the right hand side, get ready to stare down the Coeddil as well as Cubone and Marowak, as well as Totodile and El Gordo Grande, which is my Saurus Oil Blood that's leading those Croxagore. And that pretty much makes up her movement phase for this part. So here's a close-up of the movement phase on the left-hand side. There's the Troupe of Dawn on the left-hand side, followed by Durthu and his force, and he's currently carrying 2 wounds because of the Amber Spear. At the same time, there's a close-up of Coeddil the Willow Lord, as well as the Troupe of Twilight, as well as the Troupe of Dusk, and the Sisters of Twilight, just kind of hanging out right there, waiting for me to come to them. And finally, there's a close-up of Sternbark the Harrower, just kind of standing his ground there in the forest on the right-hand side. So the movement phase over with, to go directly to the magic phase. So during the magic phase, my friend Smells Like Febreze managed to cast Enfeebling Foe, which basically impacts your strength characteristic. And as you can see in this photo, she put that spell directly onto the Guacamole guards, and she rolled a perfect 6 for the stat decrease. So just like that, my Guacamole guards are now strength 1. They lost 3 points in their strength characteristic, which is absolutely horrible. Now you might be wondering, Commander Cheapskate, why didn't you use your remaining Dispel Scroll to stop it? Well, the reason why is because my friend Smells Like Febreze rolled Irresistible Force on that one.
Klaatu! Miranda!
Unfortunately for Smells Like Febreze, she did roll a miscast 4 on that one, so because of the large pie template goes directly on top of the Troupe of Dusk, does manage to kill 5 Dryads, and unfortunately for my friend Smells Like Febreze, it did suck Drycha directly into the warp, so just like that she gets killed, and at the same time the spell effects have killed 5 of her Dryads as well. So at first I was happy, but then I realized what happened next. Smells Like Febreze cast Dwellers Below. Basically, she got that spell off Irresistible. She rolled 2 6s on that one, and she put it directly into the Guacamole guards. And if you guys remember, the Guacamole guards had the Enfeebling Foe put on them, so now they're only strength 1, which means that I have to roll a 1 in order for my guys to survive their strength characteristic test. So as you can see here, I originally did have a unit of 30 Source Warriors. As you can see, when it's all said and done, I only have 8 left over. Those guys got massacred, being dragged directly into the depths of the earth, being devoured by Lord knows what that exists down and below, because the dwellers are hungry. And needless to say, it caused me all kinds of problems later.
Klaatu! Miranda!
So like I said before, she did get that spell off Irresistible, and she miscast 7 on one, but it didn't really matter, and the reason why that didn't matter is because she has the Throne of Vines on her Coeddil the Willow Lord. So she rolls a d6, rolls a 2 up, that Dispel doesn't matter. And even if it did matter, it's only a 7 up, so because of that, it would have caused no problems for her whatsoever, because there's nobody in base contact with a wizard. So that part was absolutely insane. So this is where the bad starts happening. So because of my unit, the Guacamole guards was basically just destroyed beyond all recognition, and because they're less than a quarter of their original starting size, they do have to roll double 1s in order to stand their ground for insane courage. Needless to say, I did not roll that. Because of that, my Guacamole guards had to flee. I think they fled back, 4 or 5 inches for the most part. But because they were within 6 inches of my House Slytherin, that also caused them to panic as well, which means I take a panic test for those guys. And those guys are only leadership 6. And this is where the problem comes in. My Battle Standard Bearer is nowhere near these guys. They're way off to the right-hand side, mounted on top of a Carnosaur, because I made up this list like a total newbie, and I'm not thinking about where that guy was going to be at. So because of that, my Slytherin guys did fail their leadership test, and they fled back, 5 or 6 inches as well. So they're running. But wait, there's more. Because my Guacamole Guard are within 6 inches of the Bulbasaur has a test for its panic test, and I just rolled out of the box for my result. I think I rolled like a 5 and like 2 6s, I think. So because that, the Bulbasaur is fleeing as well. It rolls boxcars and runs right off the table and decides to run for the hills to save itself. Which then, of course, also triggers my Source Riders, my Coleman Knights. They also had a test as well, and they have Leadership 8, which is typically a pretty good leadership value. Unfortunately, though, I think I rolled like a 4, a 6, and a 5 on that one, so because of that, they're running for the hills as well. I think they go back 8 or 9 inches, I think, when they're fleeing. And the reason why is because my Battle Center Bear was nowhere to be found in this part of the battlefield because it's all the way to the right-hand side. And like a noob, I forgot about that. And yeah, my whole left-hand flank totally collapsing at this point. And to add insult to injury, my friend Smell Like Febreze uses the lore attribute from the Lore of Life to take off 1 wound on Durthu. So because he only has 1 wound on him now, so that part is absolutely insane. Like I said, I made a huge mistake deploying those skinks forward as far as I did because it caused a chain reaction to fail for my leadership tests. And my left flank is now running for the hills because they don't want to die. So as you can see in the shooting phase, it was all kinds of bad. The Troupe of Twilight as well as Naetra, I believe her name is. That's the one who carries the Talon of Dusk. They both concentrate fire with their bows directly into my Thesaurus, and remember my Thesaurus are rocking 1 toughness right now, so they get shot to pieces. I lose 9 of my Saurus warriors. I think I lost 5 of them from the Troupe of Twilight. The other 4 came from Arahan opening fire with her Dusk shot with 2d6 strength 1 hits. And just like that, that unit of Thesaurus has pretty much been gutted for the most part. And unfortunately, I have to take a panic test. And the problem, though, is that I failed my panic test, and my Battle Center Bear, who is supposed to give me my rerolls, isn't present to help them. Unfortunately for me, I failed that panic test, and I could not reroll my leadership value because my Battle Center Bear is all the way in the far right-hand side of the battlefield, away from my main lines. And so just like that, they run too. Except I think they run like 10 inches back, is what they decided to do because, you know, no one's going to run like Saurus Warriors, especially when they're getting shot to pieces, because their general was playing like a brand new player to Warhammer. So between you and me and the wall, I definitely know I'm not going to win this one because my entire army, for the most part, has been routed and they don't want to get shot at anymore. But it's not over yet. Remember that Troglodon squirrel that I had right here on the right-hand side? Notice he's missing, and the reason why he's missing is because Naetra, which is the Sister of Twilight who has the Talon of Dawn, I believe. That's the one that fires like a bolt thrower. She takes aim and fires with that thing directly into Squirtle. Managed not only to hit him and wound him, but rolled maximum wounds of 6. And just like that, my Troglodon got killed, and he is currently dead and rotting in the forest. At the same time, though, I was really lucky on them. Even though he died, I did manage to pass my leadership tests for both Cubone and Marowak, as well as for El Gordito Grande, as well as the total dials, because unlike the rest of my army, my Battle Center Bear was there to do the rerolls in case they failed. So because they stand their ground, no problem. And just like that, most of my army has either been shot to pieces or it's running for the hills. Alright, so that takes us directly to the top of turn number 2 for the Lizardmen. This photo was taken after the move phase. And as you can see, my army is no longer around. My Jurassic Jousters flew off the table. They failed the rally test and they run away. At the same time, my Guacamole Guard as well as my House Slytherin also failed their leadership tests. Luckily for me, though, they didn't run as far as they could have, but they're getting close to the table edge. And if you notice the Saurus, they're gone too because they don't want to die anymore. And they fled off the table. The only thing I've left are the Totodiles, as well as El Gordita Grande, as well as Cubone and Marowak. And to make matters worse, I did try to charge Cubone and Marowak directly into Sternbuck the Herald, but unfortunately, though, I failed my charge test because he only goes forward like a couple of inches. And at this point, I realize things are not looking very good right now for my army. So here's a close-up of what used to be left of my army. As you can see, the Guacamole Guards, as well as House Slither, are slowly making their way towards the table edge. And yeah, I don't really blame them for running because their general is acting like a noob right now and not doing anything right. And here's a close-up of the Totodiles as well as El Gordito Grande trying to charge directly into the Troupe of Dusk. And I failed their charge, so they only go up a couple of inches. And to add insult to injury, same thing happens to Cubone and Marowak. I try to send them directly into Sternbark the Harrower, but I failed to make it, so I only go for I think 3 or 4 inches, so it is mad embarrassing. And at this point I realized there's no way in heck I would be able to win this one, so because of that I decided to call it at this point. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That takes directly to the end of the game with a victory for the Elves on this one. And the reason was because I played like an idiot in this game and I got shot to pieces and my army ran away. Which is actually kind of funny, all things considered. I mean, I haven't lost this bad in a really, really, really long time. And it was kind of funny just we just had a laugh. My buddy Smells Like Febreze and I just were busting a gut the entire time. We had a blast watching all this chaos ensue, and it was absolutely fantastic. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going directly to the After Action Report because this game is now officially over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
I thought about staying. They offered me the chance to lead them, to teach them, to be king.
Uh-huh.
But my place is here, so I swallowed the juice, said the words, and here I am.
Did you say the words right this time?
Well, maybe I didn't say every single tiny little syllable, no, but basically I said them, yeah. Basically.
Alright folks, now it's time for the After Action Report. This is part of the battle where we talk about what went well, what went poorly, and what we can learn for the next time we do battle. This is the After Action Report for the Golden Age Warhammer Fantasy Battle Report number 133, and this one ended up being a defeat for Commander Cheapskate. I scored 0 victory points, while my friend Smells Like Febreze scored 2,426 victory points. For my losses, I lost Senior, El Tigre Chang, as well as Snarl, Slag, the Saurus, the Guacamole Guards, House Slytherin, the Jurassic Jousters, the Bulbasaur, as well as Squirtle. Smells Like Febreze lost nothing except maybe 2 hours of her life. This is a perfect example of an army that looks good on paper, but is actually a really bad idea. I made a huge mistake in keeping my general and battle center bear on the right hand flank and not centrally located. I relied too heavily upon cold blood to see me through, and I had to learn the hard way as to why this is a bad idea. It was so bad. And Smells Like Febreze, to be honest, Smells Like Febreze's magic phase was really on point in this battle as well. She did a beautiful job of combining the Withering with her shooting phase, destroying the Saurus with some arcane bodkins. At the same time, she did an amazing combination by putting Enfeebling Foe onto the Guacamole Guards and then finishing them off with Dwellers Below. She just destroyed my army. She wiped out a 30-man unit of Saurus warriors in an instant. Now, to be fair, my dice did abandon me in this battle. I rolled so badly for a lot of my leadership tests, and that caused all my guys to flee. But to be honest, though, poor list building as well as deployment really bit me on this one as well. I played like such a noob in this battle report, it was not even funny. Because of that, with that said, obviously I'm not going to use this list in the future. I'm basically going back to the original list I created to see how that goes and try to tweak it a little bit more from that way, instead of making such a drastic change I made this time. It was really bad. I couldn't believe how bad I lost in that one, but it was kind of funny though. It was kind of refreshing to have that happen, so that part was kind of cool. In the end though, this was still an amazingly fun battle against an awesome opponent, and as always, I am looking forward to a rematch against Smells Like Febreze. So currently right now, my Lizardmen army is sitting at 5 wins and 1 devastating loss. So with that being said, that's good for those of you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your input is always appreciated. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, or blogger.com for all the latest greatest hopping news related to this channel. And that's good for this one, you guys. I'm going to go drink something, and you guys have an awesome one. We'll see you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.